It is, what's today? Wednesday the 10th, and we are going to get this case study discussion going. All right, so I can go ahead and start us off with a prayer, yes?
Okay.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to meet. We pray that we'll be able to get through this case study and understand the principles and concepts taught. And we pray for these things in the name of the Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So back to screen sharing. Um, so let's see here. You got any spiritual thoughts or anything?
Not this week.
Yeah. So, just FYI, we are having a little bit of technical difficulties. So yeah. Okay. So first question, or I guess question number 3. Did you want to read that, or do you want me to read that?
I can read it. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So far in this course, we have seen a few common threads and takeaways. Founders matter, experience, passion, and vision shape the business and can make the difference between success and failure. Business plan at the founding stage of a company is a collection of hypotheses. In other words, guesses. Startups create value by systematically testing hypotheses and making changes to the plan when the test results indicate a need to change. Early tests tell us a lot about the viability of a business and where more information is needed. And previous cases analyzed business models the founders had already chosen. Now we get to see a company at the moment of choice. All right.
All right. So I guess which business model option did you favor?
I chose the razor and razor blades one. Which one did you choose?
Okay. I ended up choosing the data analytics, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Give each person who voted a chance to share what. And if a choice is left without someone voting for it, discuss the pros and cons. Oh, okay.
okay. So, so go ahead and I'll let you.
Oh,
Do you want me to go first as to why I voted mine, or do you want to go first?
you can go first.
Okay. So, Excel chart here. So, let's see here. Let me make sure I got the right. Let me just change this quickly. Was that? What was the original test at? Was it 100 or 175 for the data analytics? Initial value was 75. Okay. So 75 and 75. Okay, now we're good. So the reason I chose data analytics, got it here. Okay, so with going with the traditional model, the data is paid off so fast it's almost non-existent. In a 10-year time period, the growth curve is steady with a sales estimate of 45,000 by year 10. So it's a steady increase, but not really an exponential increase. With the razor and razor blade model, you wouldn't hit break even until about 5 years. That's what I got in mind. And at about year 10, I got that you'd be at 14,000. Did you get a different number?
I got something like it was something around there. Like I said, I don't know what mine like
Okay.
accidentally, but it was around there. It was, I think it was like 14 or like it was in between
Okay.
like 12 and then 14. It was
Okay. All right. So I'm not like hugely off by 20,000 or anything. Okay. So, and then with the data analytics strategy, I said that you probably wouldn't hit a break even point until about 6 years in. But once you get past the 6 years, the 50% growth of revenue mixed with the earnings before interest and taxes of 22%, and then the NOA of 30% would put you at over 50,000, about 50,000 in revenue by year 11. So although you have this huge amount of debt that you build up, the first 6 years, or 5 years really, once you hit in the estimated growth rate of 50% at the 6 to 10 years of the earnings before interest and taxes to 22% instead of negative 16. That made a huge difference, and that's what really started the climb. Because if the earnings before interest and taxes divided by sales, if that remained at negative 16%, like the debt would be just exponential. I mean, you'd be looking at, two, three, $400,000 in debt. So the reason I chose data analytics is because it has a greater growth potential. So looking down at it in the long road, to me, that's why it seemed like a better investment than going with the razor and razor blade strategy. But go ahead and give me your reason for choosing razor and razor blade strategy.
So I chose it because it was talking about how it would open up the opportunity for them to go and open new markets because of that business model. And having the cost of the machine at like 5,000, I think it was, and then they're making a 10% margin on the cartridges, and so opening up, like having a broader, like more market share because of the new markets, they could have a higher volume of sales in each of the markets instead of like the data collection, like just compiling all the data and having control of all the information. Like, because that's what the data analytics model was. And so I just felt like with the razor blade, they would have higher volume of sales in the separate markets. And I felt like with the data analytics one, they would run out of money before they could even break even, because they were already spending like $7,000 a month on operations alone. And so it was going to take up money selling machines and cartridges for less. So
okay.
And so they would just expand more because of how cheap it would be, considering like they would be able to get into hospitals, research centers, like pharmaceutical companies. But I was at crossroads, and so my idea was to, like, what I thought was what they should do is just start off with the razor blade, and then once they got more established, they could start and like transition into the third strategy, which is the data analytics one.
Okay.
And so that's what I said.
Okay. Yeah, my final hypothesis on it was and the video even talks about it, I think. Using changing up the numbers, so just combining the two strategies just all together at once. So instead of charging $3,000 and a $75 test fee, you charge them, maybe $6,000 with about $150 test. And then what that does, I don't know if you had time to play around with the numbers or not, but changing that. Let's see here. So it's kind of a best of both worlds. To me, it seemed like, because you get the market share from the razor and razor blade strategy, but you also be, I guess, the first Google of DNA genome data. It's like this. I don't know if you can see it here, but the cumulative cash flow chart, like the by 2023, they'd be making well over $200,000 of revenue, or cash flow, I should say. So that final thought is just go ahead and combine, charge, instead of charging $3,000, go ahead and charge an upper price, and that way they have, they're not getting so much into debt. It's still taking a little while to pay off, but they're not getting as deep down into debt.
Yeah. So. And that's why I said that it was easier for them to start off with the razor blade, but then also transition, because I think in one of it says in the article, I wrote it down somewhere, that the company that controls information is the one that will succeed and change how healthcare is delivered. But and so that's why I was kind of like for the data analytics one, because it had that vision that he originally wanted.
Yeah, so it can spread across to a lot more people, because that's what he wants. Yeah.
But then again,
he wants it to be available.
That in, like you said, the initial, like, they would, it would be like an enormous cost for them to start off that way, at least.
Yeah. And also, I think going along the data analytics, they also talked about joining forces with Google or Amazon. So I think that'd be a good idea, because they're the ones who, or at least Google is the one who really started this idea of, giving all this stuff and just giving it to people, but then, charging companies for information. That's really how they make bank is, companies want to know what people are looking at, and they give it to them for a price. So, I thought that would have been a pretty good idea. Okay. All right.
So back to where were we?
So okay. Using the power someone created questions. Okay, so if we increase, oh no, we're on question. Should we in question 5 then?
Oh.
Or next one?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, well, it just says
Oh, okay. Number of potential customers. Let's do that.
oh for traditional. I guess neither of us chose traditional.
Yeah, neither of us chose traditional.
I
So
thought
number of potential customers for the Razor Blade.
I thought they weren't gonna get many new customers just because it was pretty expensive. Because it was like $40,000 a machine, and then the tests they were charging anywhere from like 500 to 1,000. And
Hmm.
oh yeah, so I didn't. They
Yeah.
weren't.
They even said they would only get a few thousand.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said around 2,000. They would only sell approximately 2,000 machines, actual machines.
Yeah. And then, so which customers would be expected to pay for the product? I just put like research centers would be the only one, or the people who get like government grants, basically.
Hmm. And even then, it's not a promise because you never know if they'll get the grant or not. So,
Hmm.
um,
And who are the competitors?
so competitors
Was it
are
Illumina?
Illumina.
Oh, yeah. And then what was the other one?
I've got it here.
Life Technologies, I think it was, or Life.
Yeah, Life Technologies. Yep.
Yeah. And then the founder's goal, or what, and what would be their likely response? I said that they would probably lower prices until like competitors couldn't compete anymore, and they would just drop out, and then
Yeah.
they'd probably hike up the prices again once they were like the only ones on the market.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I'm looking at the wrong case study. Here we go. I'm like, what? Where are the notes? Okay. So yeah, Illumina and Life Technologies. That's for the traditional model and for the Razor and Razor Blade model. Um, that's the competition. Now for the data analytics, the competition there is Oxford Nanopore
Mm-hmm.
because they're the only ones who are attempting to do the same thing. They just haven't gotten there.
Mm-hmm. And then the found
Okay.
goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the Razor and Razor Blade model, which customers would be expected to pay for the product? There's quite a few.
Just talking about the traditional one, because it says if a choice is
Oh, is it?
yeah, discuss it.
Okay.
At least that's what I wrote
Okay.
down.
All right. Good. Okay. I was thinking the question meant like just
for all of them.
yeah, like I was thinking it was just for all of them, but it does. Yeah, that's good. That's good for me. So.
Yeah.
Um,
So what were the founders' goals?
for the founders' goals,
Yeah.
the wrong case study. I put it was just along the same lines as the situation. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce his name. So,
It's Steve. Let's just call him Steve.
Hassan? Steve? Sure, we'll call him Steve.
Steve.
Hassan, I think is one of his names. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is the question? Their goals? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His goal was to reach the greatest number of customers and give it the greatest likelihood for a secure financial future. Just the idea of being able to reach a lot more people at a lot cheaper price, so more people can have these tests done.
Yeah. I just put the same thing basically. Their goals weren't about money. It was more about making a difference in medicine.
Yep.
And so, yeah, what were the investors' goals? To make money, obviously.
Yeah. That's pretty simple. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Using a questions.
Okay, so using the Excel model you created before class, answer the following questions individually and then compare answers as a group. If we increase the EBIT divided by sales and hold everything else equal, time to pay back either increases, decreases, or remains the same. Which one did you put?
I put that if you increase the earnings over the sales, then the payback time decreases, which means
Yep.
you make more money. Well, then you're making more money, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So then if you decrease it, and then it goes vice versa. If you decrease it, then the payback time increases.
Increases, yeah.
Yeah.
So if NOA sales increases, cash flow.
What did you put for that one?
So yeah, if the what does NOA stand for again? Net.
It's like net operating assets, I believe.
Yeah. Yep. So if the net operating assets over sales increases, then the cash flow decreases. That's what I got. Well, your time to get out of debt is longer. The time to pay back.
Yeah, I think that if that increases, then the payback time or the period increases,
Mhm.
because the cash flow isn't like it decreases, so you're making less money because you're spending more on the assets.
Yep.
If that's how it goes.
Yeah. No, you're right on with that.
Yeah. Okay. So
And the next one,
can you
did
see
that?
the? No, mine doesn't show up.
No, mine doesn't show up either, so we can skip that one.
I'm thinking all of the above.
Sure,
Perfect.
we'll go with that.
Okay.
So this one's a bit of a doozy.
Oh yeah, this is like the long part.
Yeah,
Is having trouble.
yeah. I kind of just, yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
what
All right.
strategies have we seen that flatten or lengthen the cash flow curves?
So I'm assuming what he means by flatten is like you don't see as much growth. It just kind of stays flat. Am I
Yeah.
right there?
Yeah. So from what
Okay.
I understood, at least, okay, so with Rent the Runway, they had a longer payback period just because with that one, they had to buy a ton of inventory, right? And then like storage space, and they had to hire a lot of people. And so that's why that's what I understood from that one, that their payback period was the longest one.
Okay.
And then Dropbox might have been faster just because all they really had to do was pay employees. Like they had limited inventories. Like that's
Yeah.
what I understood, right? They didn't really have to pay.
Yeah.
Like they just had and just the software
They just
engineer.
had to pay billable hours. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then
And then Dr. John's products. That was just that was the toothbrush one.
I didn't even remember these cases. There's so many cases that like I had to like go back and
yeah. So his company was doing good. He was just scared of competition gonna blow him out of the waters. So that's why he was gonna combine with PG, at least with their, I think it was their Crest brand.
yeah.
So theirs had a potential to grow, but I think it was more like in this case the traditional model where they could have grown, but they didn't have the platform.
Yeah.
to really get their product higher into the market share. Although they did, I remember they did sell a lot. I mean, in the first 6 months, they got what? It was 1% of the market share,
Oh
which is
yeah,
pretty incredible.
something like
So,
that. Yeah.
man, I can't believe I actually remember that. Oh my goodness. Oh, I have a horrible memory. All right. Okay, so describe to each other what would happen to Dr. Johns if they had decided to build an independent company. Oh, yeah, we just answered that question.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
so what?
it.
Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say I think it would have taken them a little longer because it was a smaller company. So he would have had to gain like more capital and like his cash flow curve would have been a little deeper and it would have been harder for him to pay it back just because he wasn't, like it said, it was a small business going up against like these big like Crest and things like that.
Yeah. Well, and also they are, if I can remember correctly, they were selling their electrical toothbrushes for very cheap compared to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was maybe more like the razor and razor blade model they were where they weren't making as much, but they were selling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the time to get out of debt would have been a little, like, quite a bit greater. Not
Mm-hmm.
maybe as much as Rent the Runway, but still
Mm-hmm.
significant. So yeah.
Yeah, because they had potential to in like the market to grow.
Hmm.
So.
They just didn't have the platform. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
So discuss the same for Rent the Runway. If the founders of Rent the Runway had been able to convince the dress designers to retain ownership of the dresses, what impact would that have had on Rent the Runway's cash flow curve? Flatten, steepen, shallow, or deepen? Increase, decrease, time to pay back.
Um,
Oh,
well, I wrote down that I felt like it would have increased the cash flow just because they wouldn't have to have bought as much inventory.
okay.
Like, if that makes any sense. So it wouldn't have been as deep.
Wait, it wouldn't have been as cheap to buy the dresses, or
As,
it would have
no,
been
as
cheaper?
deep as deep, like on the
Oh,
cash
a
flow.
steep. Okay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. It would have been a
I can
little,
see that.
yeah, it would have been a little steeper coming out of the dip. So,
Okay, I didn't have an answer for that because I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. Um,
yeah.
so, what decisions did Drew Houston make in Dropbox that favorably impacted the cash flow curve? Hmm.
Oh, I think we talked about that a little bit already. That he only hired a couple of people, so it was a small number of like programmers. So it was. I feel like it was easier to start up then.
Yeah,
Like there weren't a lot of costs to it, and they. I don't remember. Did they borrow money from venture capitalists or?
they did. Yes, they did.
Uh,
And that was just to get the data that they needed.
mhm. Oh, so
So,
yeah, so they didn't. It didn't take them a lot of time to pay back because they weren't really paying. They just, yeah, because they didn't have that many employees.
mhm.
I think that's what helped them out.
Oh gosh. Okay. Um, Look at the choices of Gen App Systems has from a cash flow standpoint. For each business model option under consideration, compare the following. NPV, if some of the options have similar net present values, which is riskier? Is it advisable to take additional risk for similar net present value? Um, I have no idea.
Net present value, some of the options. Well, to take a bigger risk, the NPV has to be pretty high, right? Like if you were wanting to take a bigger risk, like you'd want it to be high. So
that's right. Yeah, your net present value, the the valuation, has to be a lot higher if the risks are higher. If it's not high and the risks are high, then it's probably not something you should be looking into.
yeah.
Or at least it's not the direction you should be going. That's my impression.
So if they have similar options, if it's the same for all three strategies, then either one of the first two, right? Wait, can I see? Hold on. Are you screen sharing right now?
Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm. What you want to see?
Just shoot. I can't.
I think for how will Janap Systems raise funds to support each option, I think it's right along your first answer.
Yeah.
They gave to the first question, which is using the razor and razor blade model to get going, and then looking into, because that'll get them market share, and then once they have market share, they can use all that market share for their data. And then they can create this immense amount of data to where anyone can access, any genome information that they need for a price. So I think as far as funds, I think that may be a solid way to do it. I mean, there's also, angel investing, capital venture. The only thing is with the capital venture, just like the Andreessen case, one where he got a bunch of capital venture, but nothing ever happened because they never, their business model wasn't conducive to what the customer wanted. Do you remember that case study? Yeah. The financial cake?
Yeah. Well, then, yeah. Well, that goes along with kind of the second one, like how did they raise, or how will they raise funds? Didn't they already get the funds or like a grant for it? Didn't they get, I think it was like 20 million?
Yeah, as far as I know,
or something like along the
line. So they. Here we go. Yeah. Worked on technology that would become the Genesis device, leveraging the extensive resources and grant funding the university TGC secured for his project. So Stanford is the one who got the grant funding for him. They got it from the National Institutes of Health. So he had the grant money. He was awarded $4 million from the National Institutes of Health to develop its device further. Then they raised $3 million from angel investors. In April, they secured $10 million in venture funding from Deschênes Capital, a lead investor. An IPV and Stanford University also invested a Series A round.
So that they raised a little over like 80 million then.
Yeah. They had the funding.
I just feel like when it comes to like the which option is more attractive to investors? I feel like it just depends on what the investors want. Because if there's high risk, but there's also like with high risk comes high reward, but there's also, like low risk, low reward. So I feel like it just depends on what kind of like what they wanted. Because if you wanted a lower risk, then what's it called? Then they should go with the razor blade. Or which one's the first one? Razor?
Traditional.
Oh, I mean, well, not the traditional. The second one.
Yeah, so there's the razor blade and there's the data analytics.
Mm-hmm. And so.
Yeah, my only concern with the razor and razor blade strategy was that by the time they got out of their debt, and I guess it's really the same with the data analytics too, is that Illumina or Life Technologies would realize how much market they're losing, and they would create a similar product to it and charge the same price to it, or even a lower price, and then they would lose. My biggest fear was, or I guess for me, risk was that those two competitors would step in and take away more, like the market share that they would need to get out of that and stay out of that debt and return all the investments back to the capital, to Desheng Capital and Stanford and all those who invested in it.
With the razor blade one?
Really for both. I mean, either one is going to come with a risk.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's true. My thinking on it was that there was an established market, so there will be money anyway, kind of thing. But
Okay.
So
see, for me, kind of my thinking behind the data analytics from a competitor standpoint was, if I saw that happening, that they were selling this small, lightweight genome processor that could, process an entire genome in just 8 hours, 7 hours, for only $3,000. As a competitor, I would be saying, well, that sounds like a cheap piece of junk. It's probably nothing I really have to worry about. So maybe in that sort of, if you're looking at it like that, I could see how they could maybe get away with going the data analytics route. But like you said, and like the case study says too, they have, if they did the razor blade strategy for, there's a definite market out there for that. People would be familiar with those prices, and it would be a little bit lower than what they're used to. They'd be familiar with, how it works. It wouldn't be like, well, hold on, I don't feel comfortable with giving all this information away to fit into some huge data thing. So I could see how either one has its risks and pros and rewards.
But then again, going along with that last one, like how much, this was what got me to choose razor blades, because it asked how much of the company will the founders have to give up to reach the goal.
Mhm.
And wasn't it to calculate that? Wasn't it something like doing the 20 million divided by like the additional amounts to raise?
I didn't understand that. I just skipped that,
Oh, well,
honestly.
I might have done it wrong. But from what I understood, like, they'd have to give some of their ownership up with, like, the data analytics.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't own all of it. I think that if they wanted, like, I think with the data analytics, they would have to give up 30% of their company. And I mean, if you give up 30%, like, is that really your, like, is that really all your company now? Kind of thing. So if they wanted to maintain ownership, then they had to go with like the razor and the razor blades kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Because it goes along
Okay.
with the case that we talked about, like it said earlier, is like founders actually matter. And so what he wanted to do, like it was never so much about money for him again, like it was more his vision. And so I feel like if he had to give up that 30%, he would have to sacrifice a little bit more of it. And
Yeah.
so that's why I said going with the razor blade, because it's easier for them to start off with the razor blade, considering like again, like the markets are established and they can enter into like several different markets and have higher sales within each market instead of just one whole. And so once they got enough, like once they got that going, then they could transition into doing the data analytics. If there's possibly a way to get, the data analytics with the prices of razor blade,
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And I think even in Exhibit 11, it says that a research facility would buy up to 100 machines and use one cartridge a day. So that right there is a ton of revenue with just one business, one company, one facility. And so
Yeah.
there's there's way more ways to make money because they have like research facilities, hospitals. Um,
Laboratories. Yeah. Quest Diagnostics. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. So seems to me like a fair, a fair assessment. So,
Hmm.
all right.
So,
Cool beans. Um, I think those are all of them. So,
yeah, I think we got it.
yep. All right. Well, if you don't have any questions or anything else, I think we're good.
Yeah, good to go. Okay, see you next
All
week.
right.
Mhm.
Yep. We will see you next week.
Bye.
All right. We'll see you.